Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. My name's Gina and I had VSG surgery on April 25th of 2022. Welcome to day 4 of Thanksgiving week. Today we are tackling stuffing. It took me a very long time to try to maybe figure out what I was going to do. I didn't want to use pre-store-bought bread, so we're going to make our own biscuits the day before, so it's already done. We'll jump back in time a little bit. So we're gonna make some biscuits, dry them out, and then since stuffing doesn't really have that much protein in it, we're adding a little bit of ground pork sausage to try to bump that protein up, just in case if that's the only thing you could have at your table that was very friendly, it at least has some protein in it for you. So let's back up to yesterday when we make our biscuits. I'm using FlavCity's recipe. Everything will be linked down below. We'll go over stats when everything is done and cooked. And yeah, let's go to the kitchen. Welcome to the kitchen for stuffing. So it's the night before. I'm actually gonna make all this, but we need to prep our bread portion the day ahead because I need to let it sit out and get stale overnight. Seems counterintuitive, but you need stale bread for stuffing. So the recipe we're going to use actually from FlavCity's keto meal prep, and we're going to do the buttery cheddar biscuits recipe. I'm going to make a couple alterations because I need it to taste more Thanksgiving-y than these do. These are like Red Lobster cheddar bay biscuit dupes, but I'll link this recipe. I think he has a blog post on it, so I'll link that below so you can grab that. But this is what you're going to need for the biscuits. So this is what you're gonna need. Almond flour, eggs, baking powder, onion powder, garlic powder, poultry seasoning, some butter, cheddar cheese, and your classic salt and pepper. So let's get into the recipe. We're gonna start with our dry ingredients. To a bowl, I'm gonna add 2 cups of almond flour. And this is where in the beginning of the first video, I talked about like, obviously this is not gonna be as low carb as possible. Like I'm still making a version of stuffing. I am gonna eventually add some meat to this so that it's higher in protein because this does not have a bunch. So just his recipe alone, this makes about 10 biscuits, and it's only 4 grams of total carbs per biscuit, which is not terrible. But obviously we're making a thing, so it's 40 grams basically for the whole recipe, but still not bad for a stuffing. All right, so 2 cups of almond flour, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, a half a teaspoon of garlic powder, half a teaspoon of onion powder, half a teaspoon of salt, a little fresh cracked pepper. All right, and now normally he would add green onions to this to make them more like the cheddar bay biscuits. But because this is like my bread component, and normally when you buy like the already pre-seasoned breadcrumbs, it already comes with like poultry seasoning and stuff like that. So we're gonna add our own poultry seasoning to the biscuits so that I don't have to add them later. So I'm gonna do a half a tablespoon, and then we'll taste the batter to see if it needs more, because this is my first time doing this. But this has all the good thyme, sage, marjoram, rosemary, nutmeg, the good Thanksgiving seasonings right to it. So that is added in. All right, and then I'm gonna set this off to the side. Actually, I'm gonna whisk it together first. I've already melted my butter, so we're gonna do the wet in a separate bowl, and I've also preheated my oven to 350. That's going in the background. Okay, so I have a half a stick of melted butter. To this, I'm going to add 2 eggs. And then we're going to whisk this together. Should have got a bigger bowl. It's gonna get mixed more in there. All right, we're gonna dump this into the middle here. And combine this until it forms a nice dough. All right, once your dough is mixed, we're gonna add in our cheese. So I've never had like cheesy stuffing before, but I figured it couldn't be bad, especially when I mix it with like the sausage. You can't go wrong. So to this, I'm gonna do a half a cup of shredded cheddar. And then we're gonna let this sit for about 10 minutes so that our almond flour hydrates all the way. And then we will roll this into our biscuits. So I will see you when this is ready to roll. I just tasted a little bit real quick. I am gonna add another half tablespoon to this. So 1 tablespoon in total of your poultry seasoning. That should be plenty. All right, super simple. We're just gonna take this, divide it into 10, and just make little biscuits. Okay, I only got 9, but it doesn't matter because we're gonna cut them up anyway. So these are gonna go into my 350-degree preheated oven for about 20 minutes, and then we'll check them to make sure they're done. Okay, our biscuits are out of the oven. They've been cooling for probably like 25 minutes, so they're nice and golden brown on the bottom. So we're gonna cut these, because obviously our stuffing needs to be stale. So we're gonna cut these down into cubes and then just let them sit out overnight. I'll just throw maybe like a thin piece of plastic over them, but for the most part, I want them dried out. So I'm gonna cut them down the middle, and they're gonna be a little crumbly. Obviously, they're made from almond flour, so it's not like the strongest, but they taste good. So, and I used to make these all the time when I did like keto before surgery. So you could totally just make these, or just have them as a side for your Thanksgiving meal. You don't have to turn it into stuffing, but I'm just gonna cut them into little cubes like that. So let me do that, and then we'll be back. We have our sheet of, hopefully tomorrow will be dried out enough or stale tomorrow. One thing that you could do if you wanted to skip this stuff is just buy low carb bread, cut it yourself, and then season it and let it dry out overnight. I do think this will be a little bit more flavorful, and it'll be less carbs than buying those breads, because even if you did buy the bread like the 0 carb ones, at least for me, I don't count net carbs. So there would still be a ton in there because I'm not counting that fiber that you would subtract out. So granted, it would be a lot easier. I think this is gonna be more flavorful. But if you're not really counting your carbs as strictly as I do, then go for it if you wanted to skip the step. But these are gonna sit out overnight, and then we'll be back tomorrow to make the rest of the stuffing. All right, we are back ready to make the stuffing. So this is what you're gonna need. We made last night, cut and let out overnight. They're nice and crunchy now. I did throw them in the oven on 250 for about 20 minutes to dry them out a little bit more because it wasn't quite 24 hours by the time I'm making this. So now they're nice and dried out. You are also gonna need a pound of pork sausage, 1 onion diced, about 4 ounces, or it was like 3 stalks of celery. You'll need some chicken broth, a little bit more sage, poultry seasoning, garlic powder, and then the good old salt and pepper. Also 2 tablespoons of butter. So let's go to the stove and we will assemble. First thing we're gonna do for our stuffing is brown our pork sausage. Get this into the bowl, into the pot. And I've said it before, if you don't have a meat masher, you need to invest in one. You could totally substitute this for an Italian sausage, spicy or not. I just happen to like pork sauce, like breakfast pork sausage better. So that is why I chose this. But we'll get this brown. We're gonna take it out and then dump in our veggies. All right, it's starting to crisp up around the edges, so I'm going to pull the meat out and put it off to the side. Be careful because it's very splattery. All right, to this, I'll lower the heat first of all. We're going to add in our celery and onions. I'm going to add, again, a couple cracks of black pepper. Teaspoon of salt. And we'll let these cook down for a little bit. Okay, our celery and onions look good. To this now, I'm going to add just 2 tablespoons of butter. We'll let this melt, and then I'm also going to put in, we're going to start with a 1/2 cup of chicken broth, just because I'm not really sure how well the biscuits are going to hydrate, so I don't want to put too much in, but just enough, and then we'll wait till that kind of starts to boil up like you would make normal stuffing. I'm also going to add just a sprinkle more of sage. This you can do to your taste preference. And then more poultry seasoning. That doesn't want to come out. All right, to our bubbling mixture, we're going to dump in our biscuit breadcrumbs. And this is where it could all go horribly wrong. So I don't know, we'll see. I'm not gonna put all like these little bits in there, just as long as I get the big chunks. And we will stir. Then I'm also gonna dump in our sausage. So far it's looking great. It's not all one giant lump of stuff. All right, I'm just gonna do a dash more chicken stock, and then I will taste it for seasonings, and then we'll get it into a casserole dish. That is so good. I'm gonna add just a pinch more salt and some garlic powder, maybe a teaspoon. And I'm gonna call that done. That is pretty good stuffing, if I do say so myself. All right, I'm just gonna put this into a casserole dish, and then nothing fancy, just throw it in the oven for about 20 to 25 minutes. So I will see you when this is done. Okay, this is the final dinner spread. I'm gonna make up what I would normally plate myself, I guess, and then we will go over stats. All right, let's go over stats for the stuffing. So this is maybe one recipe where I would sub something out after the fact as I was calculating the numbers, but as the recipe sits, I'm counting this as about 14 bariatric servings. From that, it's about 268 calories, 5 carbs, and 8 protein. I am very happy with the carbs and the protein per serving in this. I'm not thrilled about the calories, but that is because we use butter in the biscuits. The almond flour itself was a little bit higher, and the sausage was a lot. So if you sub out the breakfast sausage I use with this turkey breakfast sausage, which is what I would do if I was making this again, it's going to drop to 190 calories, which I'm totally okay with for stuffing and for that amount of fat. So that is one change I would make next time. Here is my plate. I've given myself 2 ounces of turkey, one with the Jello sauce, one with the swerve sauce, and then a little gravy. And then I have 1 ounce each of Polish sausage, green bean casserole, and stuffing. So I guess we'll see how much of this I eat. It's about 6 ounces, which is more than I would serve myself, but we will see. All right, it is time for the stuffing taste test. Sharpie's here just in case I drop something. All right, so stuffing, a nice big forkful. Okay, it's not bad. It definitely tastes like stuffing. All of the seasonings and everything taste exactly like stuffing. You can tell it's not real bread. Like it's a little more gritty because we're using almond flour, obviously, but as a low carb replacement stuffing, I think it's pretty dang good. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop them below. Make sure you go check out FlavCity for his original recipe. The biscuits are delicious by themselves. But if you just make those little changes to kind of make it more Thanksgiving friendly or Thanksgiving focused, I should say, definitely go check that out. The recipe will be linked down below, plus my additions and then the rest of the stuffing. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop them below or shoot me a message over on Instagram at gina.vsg. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow for dessert.